Good afternoon. Lame. Good afternoon. So much better, but still kind of not. Guess what? Don't get me started. I'll do it. Yeah. Except this is being recorded for the president. Maybe I won't do it. Yeah. All right. I do want to start out actually. Can you go back to the other screen for just a second? We have created a web page just for the Quality Enhancement Plan, so I wanted to tell you about that real quick. In case you missed the first meeting, this is the second in a series of 3, and it's just WTAMU.edu/QEP to find that web page. Okay. We have, if you missed the last roundtable in September, we have the PowerPoint from that, as well as an audio recording of everything that we talk about. So that if you would like to catch up with the things that we talked about, that's available. I also have on there a little video. This is going to show you kind of what we're going to talk about today. Becoming a lover of the 30-second video. So that's what our website looks like, so please go out there and look at that. Anyone can look at it. So we will continue on. Let me welcome you, thank you, to our roundtable. My name is Amy Anderson, and I'm the Associate Provost here at West Texas A&M University. And it looks like we have a good crowd today. I'm just going to kind of ask different groups to stand momentarily. If you are a student at West Texas A&M, please stand briefly. All right, we have a great student here today. Thank you so much. If you are a staff member at West Texas A&M, would you please stand? Excellent. Yes, you can clap for them too. If you are a faculty member at West Texas A&M, please stand. Nice. Yes. If you are a community employer, we invited a group of folks to join us today. If you're a community employer, would you please stand? If you are a member of the QEP Executive Committee, would you please stand? You don't have to clap for us. All right, thank you for being here. We're really glad to have you all here to help us as we plan our Quality Enhancement Plan, which sounds really weird. I'm going to do a quick review of what we talked about in the first one, just to sort of catch you up a little bit. We talked about the Quality Enhancement Plan and what it is. QEP stands for Quality Enhancement Plan. Here's kind of a definition based on SACS. This is part of our SACS reaffirmation of accreditation that all colleges and universities have to do. So basically what we're looking at is a course of action that addresses a focused topic or issue related to enhancing student learning or the learning environment. That's the really most important part of the QEP. It's to help enhance student learning across the university. So it's a little slow. So these are some of the main qualities or characteristics of the QEP. It's got to enhance overall quality and effectiveness and focus on an issue that's important to the institution, to our mission, and to improving student learning. It has to be doable and measurable. So it has to be something that we are able to do and that we are able to measure so that we can show the committee when they're here that we've done it and that we can measure it. Okay? We need to involve all stakeholders in the planning and implementation, which is why we have various groups of you here today. And we need to establish and assess goals that are part of this QEP. Okay? The other thing that we did at the last roundtable was we asked the groups, like you're sitting in today, to brainstorm, which is why you have paper at your tables now. You're going to be doing some more brainstorming today. So we asked what are the characteristics of the ideal graduate of WT, and these were some of the things that came out. We put them into categories of personal traits, general skills, and professionalism, and these were the things that popped up the most, and I won't read it to you, but those are the things that popped up the most. We had a very lively discussion about that, and I think some really good ideas came out of it. So after that, we also asked the group to brainstorm, what do we do to make that happen? Okay, so these are the areas. We had an area on jobs, a pattern that showed. One on leadership experiences, there was lots of information about that, or lots of suggestions about that. Creating the ideal classroom experience, study abroad, or diverse types of internationalized experiences. Campus resources and extra programming showed up a lot, and then some financial as a category. So we're going to talk about those more in detail as we go through this today. As you saw in the video, what we're going to look at today is what the strengths of our students are and how we can help them be better at what they do. So I'm going to turn it over to Kendra Campbell. Oh, that's right. You're right. We changed our agenda like 3 times. So this is what I want you to do. You have paper and marker at your table. You're going to talk to the people at your table, and you're going to brainstorm a list of all the strengths that our students have. All of them. Every one of them. Don't leave anything. So strengths. Everybody in the group has to participate. We are going to share a little bit out with the group. One person needs to be the writer. As you're working on this, one of the reasons we want to do this is sometimes we only think about the challenges that our students face, so we really wanted you to concentrate first on the strengths. So, sorry to interrupt, go back to your conversation. Strengths of our students. All right, it looks like you're winding down on that. You've got quite a long list at some tables. That's great. So what I would like for you to do now is discuss and decide on, it has to be as unanimous as possible, your top three. The three you think are most important at your table.
Participating in extra. That's why y'all are here. Taking naps. And then working hard. There you go. I love that. I don't know what Frank says. She's good at getting extra credit. That's why they're here.
All right, it looks like most of you have your top three. So here's what we're going to do. You were at the last round table. This is going to be very similar. Again, you'll have to bear with me. I used to teach second grade, so just the way it is. Here's what we're going to do. Each group is going to tell us your top three. while that first group goes, while each group goes, actually, you're going to look at your list. If what they said is on your list, you're going to put a star or a check or a circle or something by it so that we don't say the same thing over and over and over. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, who wants to go first? That table back there, had their hand up. Woo! Dr. Ghosh is eager. All right, so we need, I'm going to go all second grade on you people. We need some good listeners now.
Okay, you got the first one, of course, what ethics, okay, and the second one is professional skills that must be there and that's a good strength for any as a work. The next one is we figured out enthusiasm, basically enthusiasm to learn.
Okay. So good work ethic.
Good work ethics,
good professional skills, and enthusiasm. So if those were your top three, you can put a check mark by it. You don't have to say those now. All right, this table is going to choose the table to go next. Quickly, by the time I count to three. 1, 2, 3. All right.
All right. Our list included creativity and focused on serving others. And one has already been mentioned, but we also
Okay. Creativity, focus on serving others, driven to succeed. Okay. Choose the next table. All right. You're so motivated. Go, go, go.
So our list involved a couple of these good ones, but the ones we chose were overcomers,
Overcomers,
leadership,
leadership,
and good character.
good character. All right. Well done. Choose the next table.
This one.
We can hear you better next time.
we put getting involved, studying.
Getting involved, studying, and taking naps. You know? Sometimes studying requires taking a nap first. I get you. Or after, as long as it's not during the study time. It is. All right, would you please choose the next table? All right, this table over here, you're next. You have been chosen.
Could you think ambition, goal-oriented, and small classes?
Ambition, goal-oriented, small class size? No? School spirit. Okay? School spirit. Will you choose the next table? Raise your hand if you haven't gone yet. That table back there? Right.
We have two that were not listed already, diversity and ethnicity and life experience. And some are willing to access resources once they know what's available.
So tell the first again, diversity,
And ethnicity and life experience.
ethnicity, and life experience. And then the
Willing to
other
access resources.
willingness to access resources. Okay, good. Choose the next table. Who hasn't gone? Oh.
And the first table,
All right.
one that's getting.
The one that's jumped up. Their turn.
One was already hit, that left us with dedicated and helpful.
Dedicated and helpful. Good. Good. Choose the next table. Determined, passionate, involved. Good. Choose the next table.
Value-driven is the last one we have.
Good, because some of the others are repeated. So they're adding value-driven.
And knowledgeable.
Knowledgeable. Value-driven and knowledgeable. Good. Choose the next table, Mercedes. Apparently you're choosing now.
Okay, we chose that safe, with a safe environment.
Safe
And positive.
and positive. Okay, so safe environment here at WT and positive. Okay, is there any table that hasn't gone yet? These two, so let's go there.
We wrote, WT students generally have a high degree of curiosity.
Curiosity.
And they're motivated and disciplined.
Curiosity, motivated, and disciplined. Very good. Best group for last, right?
Directly from the students, so you know it's right. We did have some that already been mentioned, school spirit, enthusiasm, goal-oriented, and one that I don't know that specifically mentioned is social skills.
Social skills. That's a good one. Good. Did we leave anyone out? Students, how does that make you feel? Y'all are kind of awesome, aren't you? Give yourselves a hand, students. You keep that list for some data that we're collecting, so we're going to come on and get that. But right now, I'm going to turn the mic over to Kendra Campbell. She's going to talk to you a little bit about our student profiles, who our students are right now on this campus, so I'm going to turn it over to her.
That was a really great way to start. Is this on or do I need to? Okay, I don't know if I needed to push something. I'm really glad we started that way because that's not a list we get to think about very often in a mixed setting like this with faculty, staff, and students. And so as we get into a few of the characteristics of our student profile, you're going to hear some of those things come out. Some of them maybe are a little bit different than what we've said today, but I think you're going to see a repeated pattern, which I appreciate. Some of this is information many of you have seen. Some of it is new that we've had for a while. We just haven't had an opportunity to share it in a setting like this. And so it's going to be a kind of a brief overview. We're going to look a little more specifically into our freshman cohorts because it's a big population for the last 3 years of who our current undergraduate enrollment is currently. So we'll get into a few more of those details. And I want to say up front, I know there are some gaps in what we're going to be looking at today. And based on some of the things that triggered a few other items from my list of things that we're going to need to look into as we move forward in our process. But I hope that you'll find today's information pretty interesting. To start with, just our general numbers, and most of you may be familiar with these. Our enrollment, this is for the current fall semester, is over 8,000, which is a great benchmark that we hit. We were glad to get there. 6915 are the total of the undergraduates in that population. And so the rest of the data is really going to be focusing on that undergraduate population. As we move forward in our QEP process, that's actually the population we're going to spend more time focusing with. And so we wanted to direct our data that way. The on-campus residents at this point is approaching 2,000, and you can see our breakout there of male-female. And on this next screen, obviously, a breakout of our ethnic categories. And I do want to mention, I know some of these are a little small, and not every screen will have so many numbers on it. The Hispanic number that you see in the middle, 23.33, that's again for the current fall semester. That's creeped up over the last couple of years. We were at 21%, 22%, we're at 23%. And as many of you know, that's a number that we're hoping to get to 25%. That opens up an opportunity for additional funding for student services and support. And so that's a number that we're interested in. We'll continue to watch over the next, well, hopefully 1 year, but we'll continue to see what that turns out to be. Just a breakout of in-state and out-of-state. Most importantly, from that in-state number, I want you to note that 55% of that in-state population is from our top 26 counties. And that's a number that comes into play as we look at our students' distance from campus, maybe students who are commuting. That becomes a factor in some of our data later on. 10% out of state and 2% that are international. And I have to say, personally, I look at numbers all the time. I didn't know we were at 2% for international students. So anybody who was at the homecoming parade, I don't know if you saw the international students carrying their home country flags. There were a lot, and I was surprised at how many, and I thought that was a really great opportunity to raise awareness about that important student population. Just a breakout of what our division of colleges. And again, this is undergraduate students based on majors in which college they're in. Largest coming in under education and social sciences, second followed by agriculture, sciences, and engineering. Some of you may not have seen that number as regularly as some of our faculty, but a pretty good divided pie, I think, as we look at those breakouts. This is the one I'm actually most interested in sharing with you, and is why we're going to take a little bit closer look at some of our freshman cohorts coming in for the last 3 years. You can see our new freshmen account for 19% of our undergrad enrollment for the fall semester. 14% of that are our new transfers. That's community college and senior college. The returning cohorts there, that 34%, which is the largest piece of our undergraduate enrollment, are the continuing students who made up the freshman cohorts from 2009, 10, 11, and 12. And for those of you who aren't familiar with that terminology, our official cohort, when we track our retention number, is made up of our first-time, full-time, degree-seeking students. And so when I speak about our official cohorts each year, that's the returning population that's tracked and continues their enrollment this current fall semester. And that's made up of the last 4 freshman cohorts. Does that make sense? Everybody's looking at me with confused looks. Feel free to ask a question if you need clarification. That's the largest piece of the puzzle. Anybody expecting that to be bigger? I look at freshman retention a lot. And I have to say I was surprised as I really started tracking that year to year, that population wasn't making up a bigger portion of our total undergraduate enrollment, because that's what impacts specifically our retention number and our graduation rates. That's what those rates are based off of. And for that to only be 34% of the returning undergraduate population, obviously we would hope that that would be a bigger portion of that, right? So that's an important factor as we look at our information, and why we're going to look at the cohort information averages for the last 3 years coming in, because of that interesting piece of the puzzle. The others there, the 33%, that second largest piece, is going to be returning transfer students, potentially like non-degree seeking or students who were part-time when they first started, because they would not have been accounted for in that official freshman cohort that first year when they started. So again, an important population. Some of you are aware of the conversations about our funding issues, and again, some of that's based off of retention and graduation rates, but the second most important part of that is semester credit hours. And so our 33% that would be returning transfers and another big portion of our population, they make up a large portion of what that is for our semester credit hours. Rick?
So the 34% is since 2009.
Mm-hmm.
If you compare that, when you say retention rate in general, like that, typically around 65%, that's just 1 year.
Right, 65.5 was our retention rate from this past fall's, our 2012 fall official cohort. It was 65.5. The year before that, our official retention rate was 61.8. We like to round it to 62 because it sounds better. So over the last 6 years, we've gone anywhere from 62 to 66%, which is our average. It's one of the numbers we're hoping to increase.
So is that basically just people who came in as freshmen, never attended college before, and just didn't return?
Well, the retention rate is the students who did return. So 65%.
Takes it down to those students who didn't.
Yes, and it's specifically about fall to fall, that they come back that second fall semester. Does that clarify for you? I included in some of my other data, and I'm not sure if I brought it with me, it's probably in one of my notes pages, what those percentages are as we move forward, dropping down from 65 the first year and on from there, and I'll get that for you. Donna, any other question?
Is the others, does that include the same years of 09, 10, 11, 12, or is that just?
Well, because that's who's currently enrolled, we can't necessarily, in the time that we had, we couldn't necessarily go back and say that those were the transfers from that particular same period, but it's those who have continued to stay enrolled that weren't already new students this first time semester and weren't part of the cohort.
Okay.
So I couldn't say 100%. Obviously, it's going to be part of the makeup from before that. That may include potentially some 6-year students who are going to be graduating. It may include those in that other cohort, but that's a small percentage. Even the 2009 was a very small percentage of what that piece of the puzzle was.
Okay, but the returning cohorts definitely includes 9, 10, 11, and 12.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
And I think I have somewhere on my notes page those changes in numbers, but for time's sake, I'll keep moving and hopefully I can get that for you as we have another discussion session earlier. So again, kind of an interesting way to look at the undergraduate enrollment. I know I was surprised the first time I encountered that, and so I think it's important as we move forward to remember those pieces of data. So again, I mentioned we want to take a little bit closer look at some of the profile information and then also some self-reported data on students' perceptions of themselves and their preparedness level coming into the institution, just so we have a little bit better idea as we're trying to enhance learning for that particular group of students. So these are the percentages. So one of the conversations that comes up a lot is all of our students are from Amarillo Canyon area. And you can see that number is actually shrinking. It's been decreasing for the last 4 years. 36% of our freshman cohorts each year. These are averaged out, basically. These are each specific to the group, but you can see the progression. 36% of the official freshman cohort for 2010 were from Amarillo Canyon. 31 from the 2011 group, and so on. That dropping 10 percentage points in 4 years is pretty significant and has been, I know, a conversation among faculty that was something they were unaware of and maybe thought differently of. And so I know that that's true for a broader section of our campus. Just to give you an idea about some of their graduating class sizes, these are averaged out for the 3-year totals for those 3 cohorts coming in. So a majority of our freshman cohorts are coming from a graduating class size of less than 100 students. And that means some of them are from a graduating class of 1. So just as we think about school size, community, those sorts of things, that's a significant portion of our freshman cohort who's coming in each year. So some of the other numbers we want to look at, I know I saw a couple of these maybe on some of your list. First generation, somebody mentioned as a strength because they're excited to be here and about the opportunity to represent their family. So we're going to look at a few of these pieces of information. For those who don't know, first generation means they're the first, means no one in their family has a degree, for a 4-year degree, right? I know there's probably a better way to say it. Did I get it right though? First generation means family members have not received a degree at the university level. So we're approaching, this year it was 46%. This is the average for the last 3 years. It's actually gone down the last 2 years from some of our other numbers. It's kind of jumped around a little bit between 47 and 42 was the last percentage I saw. So students who are representing the first in their family to attend college. Pell eligible, and I know some of you are aware of the words, but I just want to make sure that everybody's aware. Pell eligible means they're eligible to receive aid, and it's based on what their estimated family contribution is. And the Pell eligible level shifts a little bit every single year. This year, it's about $5,100 as an estimate of what a family could contribute to a student's education. So that's what qualifies them as Pell eligible. And I know that's a little bit harder to define, but you can see, on average for our last 3 years, 42% of the incoming freshman class were Pell eligible and were receiving some type of aid. And again, we can get to a deeper picture there, but we wanted to just mention that one briefly. I have a feeling we'll be exploring those numbers a little bit more fully as we move forward. Dual credit. This is one of the other interesting conversations. 65% of our incoming freshmen for the last 3 years brought in some type of dual credit. That could be anywhere from 3 credit hours up to 83 credit hours that we encountered this fall. I know last year one of the high numbers was 67. We saw that jump up to as many as 83 credit hours coming in. You can see there the top 5 courses that they're bringing in. Math across the board was the top course the last 5 years. And you can see actually that continues to be on the rise. That number was as low as 33% back in 2000, and we're already at 65%. On average, students are maybe bringing in 16 hours is the overall average for those groups, but there are those that come in with an associate's degree already completed. So you can imagine the first semester when they're jumping straight to junior level courses, some of the challenges that they might encounter. I wanted to include this. I was glad to see Harry here. We worked on this project a while back as we talked about people's belief in the dual credit people are bringing in and maybe the impact that has on their success. And as a general rule, the conversation may be that if they completed and got credit for an English course that maybe they needed to do at the college level, that maybe their skills in writing, maybe reading included in that would be at a lower rate, that they would have lower GPAs and be retained at a lower rate. The students who are bringing in dual credit, this is from one particular cohort year from the 2011 group. The students who brought in credit specifically to English 1301 were retained at significantly higher rates. And that's whether they got it by exam or by dual credit. Those that didn't bring in dual credit were retained at 53%, which is below even our overall retention number for the university. In addition to that, I didn't include it on the screen, but the same pattern followed suit when we looked at first semester GPAs for those same populations. The top group was at a 3.0, and it went down from there, 2.8 and a 2.6. So it's an interesting fact. Again, more stuff that we're looking at. I know the advising office has been looking at a lot of that data, and they shared those numbers with me, so I appreciate that. The other side of the coin with that is our developmental education. 41% as an average for the last 4 years, 41% of the incoming freshman cohorts needed at least one developmental course, potentially math, reading, and or writing. Some students have to take all three, which means they, based on test scores or course completed as they enter the university, that they haven't been designated to meet the reading, writing, and math standards for college level performance. Again, a very big portion of that is math related. I think that we're obviously going to see that number drop with the changes in the placement that happened this year, but still a significant portion. And it's really interesting when you think that college algebra is the top course coming in as dual credit. And the rest of the students coming in still need developmental education in math. So it's interesting as we move forward and look at some of the other items that we want to cover. Some of these are going to come from the College Student Inventory. It's an assessment tool from Noel Levitz, which is a company that specializes in enrollment and retention with students. And our students have completed we call it the CSI, during new student orientation for the past 3 summers, not including this one, the 3 previous. And it actually gives some of our self-reported data where students get to share a little bit about their perceived preparedness, what kind of help they're open to, that sort of thing. And so it kind of gives a different side of the picture that we want to share with you today. Again, these students complete these in the summer prior to their first semester at WT. And these percentages are the students who have a strong desire to transfer before they've even started at the institution. That's a high percentage before they've even set foot on campus for an academic term. Some of those are students maybe who want to go to a larger institution. Sometimes the conversation is, my parents said if I'll come here and prove myself, I can move on to the next place. Some may be coming to get their core curriculum somewhere closer to home and then move away for a more specific program. But obviously that's a concerning number before students even get to our institution. As we know, many of our students work. From those same students for the last 3 years, they indicated their plans to work. The information includes 1 to 20 hours a week and also 20, the survey actually says over 40, so it's 20 and higher with those plans to work. Those are pretty large percentages, which I think we would expect to see. I know that there's another number. The top portion, the 58, 59, and 60% of the students who plan to work 1 to 20 hours a week, for the freshman cohorts each year, that number's been over 700 students. That is more than the total number of students we hire for campus jobs in a year. And so as we think about the student population that's working, that's a very small percentage who are getting to do that in this environment. And that becomes an important part of what their experience is here. And as we hear often, the financial challenge of university, it's an important part of what that looks like. But it was really interesting to know that in our academic year last year, 2012, 834 students were hired for on-campus jobs. The 58 from 2012 was 730 students. And so obviously as we're looking at that total number for students employed on campus, that's for the entire undergraduate and graduate population. And so just a surprising number as we look at those. I want to share a little bit about some of the confidences and receptivity scores that they shared. that number, that 36% who needed developmental math, students are coming in with an increased confidence in their math skills. And the percentage up there is those who have a strong confidence level. They were on ranges like very, very confident, confident, neutral, not confident, really, really not confident. So the 53% are those that are confident and strongly confident. Over half of the population is coming in, and yet 36% of them need developmental math. Yes, sir?
So my question is, they're confident, but do they have any ground for that?
Well, exactly. That is the question. It's interesting, one of the other scores, and I didn't put it on a slide, but I made a note to mention it. One of the things we look at with that very question is ACT section and composite scores. If you look at composite scores, our average for the last 3 years is around a 21, really, which I always thought was lower than that. Their English scores were at about 19, their math scores were at about a 21. And so it made me wonder if perhaps those higher scores in the math section on an ACT might be part of that confidence boost, or that I scored high enough on that exam that I got math credit based on that exam score. Again, the questions are very specific on the inventory, and so I can't really speak to that, but it is one of the questions that perhaps maybe those are sometimes misguided and sometimes correct. Their verbal confidence, which is related to reading and writing, their confidence has actually decreased over the last 3 years, dropping those 9 points in between 2010 and 2012. And so again, that verbal confidence, that would be the number who feel confident or strongly confident in their writing and reading abilities. So that's going down, which is maybe again related to the lower English section scores on ACTs. And again, those are that's the average. So that's not true for every single instance. But again, one of the things we said that students are confident and disciplined, that sort of thing. It's interesting to see how it's reflected in the numbers. And again, it's self-reported based on the students. And so I would guess if we asked them what their confidence level was today, as opposed to what it was in June, July, and August, when they just graduated and I finished and accomplished this task that I've been working for 4 years, and now they're 2 months in, I bet we would see a significant shift in what that looks like. But isn't it interesting to think about? I'm a little bit of a dork and I get into the numbers thing. So these are the things I ask and look at all the time. 53% of them feel very prepared to do college level coursework. So this is just a broad prepared for coursework in general, not just related to a specific subject area. We've seen a little bit of an increase in their receptivity to academic support. So they're already indicating that they're receptive to getting some sort of academic assistance. It's less than half each year of our incoming students. And as I looked at some of the numbers for our Success Center usage for the last year, our tutoring visits, whether it was in math labs, writing labs, one-on-one tutoring, that sort of thing, there were over 14,000 visits for tutoring last year alone. And so perhaps, while that number is only small here, a larger portion of our cohort every year is going back for those services as they get further along into their experience. Another piece of the puzzle that we'll look at. And I know there's a lot of numbers, so hang with me. We're almost done. Actually, sorry, we changed our schedule. This is where we got confused earlier. So one of the earlier slides showed discussion from our first roundtable. The first question was, what do we want our ideal graduate to look like? What are those characteristics? The second was, how do we create that? Amy mentioned some of those that came up repeatedly. The one regarding experiential work experience or internships was 70% or 17% of our responses for those brainstorming sessions. And the second largest was, we listed it as study abroad, but it's more about diversity, international kinds of experiences. So those are the top two. An important part of what's next in the QEP is that we're going to be brainstorming how to get and create environments to get our students to be those ideal graduates that we're hoping to. And so we wanted to just pick 2 from the list and look at some of the things to consider here in a minute when we're going to do a little bit more brainstorming, just to throw out some things. And what it shows me is that we're going to be looking at more numbers along the way through the process, but it'll be important for you as we move forward in putting proposals together. So internships through academic departments is one of those. These are not tracked through our Career Services Office. 24 of the more than 70 undergraduate degree programs require or have an optional internship listed in their degree plan. So that may be internship, it may be student teaching, clinicals for nursing, field placement and social work, something like internship where they're getting practical work experience in the field. Only a third of the programs have that in the program. And again, not all of those are required. If you look at internships through career services, there's less than 200 students who do that each year. And so that's a small percentage. We're getting several of those, obviously. As we looked at some of the other breakouts, student teaching and clinicals, those are the two of the top 3 largest departments on our campus as far as number of majors. And so obviously we're hitting some of those big populations with internship experience. This is one of the things that we as a group brainstormed last time, that we want to create those opportunities for our students, that's really valuable in getting them to be the ideal graduate that we're hoping to create. So small numbers through the career services, many through the internship side, something that will come up in discussion as we move forward with what we choose as our priorities for students in planning the QEP. The other one is study abroad. These are specific to actual abroad experiences, faculty-led and independent students who are over maybe for a semester or a summer for a little bit longer term. Again, less than 150 students each year for the last 4 years have participated in a study abroad. As we think about how we create these opportunities for these students, it was interesting that we look over the last 4 years, those faculty-led numbers, that means there were 7, 8, and 9 trips that were led each of those years. 7 in 2009, 8 in 2010. 7, 8, 9, what was I on? 9? 9 and then back to 7. So still trips being offered in the single digits each year. And the numbers are appropriate to that, but we'll have to create more experiences. And the thing I wanted to show with this particular piece of data is that as we get creative in how we create these experiences for our students, we know that finances are an issue. We know that time and resources are an issue in that. So how do we get creative in creating those kinds of opportunities to have exposure to diverse thought, to diverse populations, other international experiences? How can we create those kinds of programmings here without having to go overseas? We have to challenge ourselves to get creative in that, right? Same is true in the internship opportunities and for every other thing that's come up on the list. And we want to just mention these. Everything that you've seen so far is just brainstorming ideas from the campus. There's not any set plan. We're not saying any of those have to be part of our quality enhancement plan as we move forward. Just wanted to address a couple of the topics that came up pretty repeatedly, and I think are opportunities that we hope to create for our students either way. Now that they're all really confused, we decided that was enough. I know that there are lots of other pieces of data that we're going to encounter along the way. And again, this will be posted later, and I'm happy to follow up on any of this if you have questions later on. But we're going to transition now into another segment for some discussion.
All right, so what we want you to do now, think about all the data that Kendra just shared with you. You've got it all memorized, right? There's going to be a test now. No. Well, that's true. We do have some door prizes later. All right, so what we want you to do is brainstorm some ways that we might support students to success based on the data that you just saw. And we also want to think about, if you look at these areas that people brainstormed the last time, you can use these areas as part of your brainstorming. You can think of new areas as ways to support student learning on this campus. Based on the data that you just have, you know, like the percentage of first-gen students that we have. So how can we help those students? You know the percentages of male versus female, for example. Whatever it is that you want to think about the data that she just shared, okay? And how that data can help you decide what we need to do to support student learning on this campus. Confused yet? A little confused. So I want you to talk in your groups about ways to support students. These were some of the things that came up before. Lance?
What question did we use to develop those?
We said, the first question was, what's the ideal graduate? How do we help them get there? So this is how do you help our students, based on the profile you just saw, become the ideal graduate or give a team. And that means they're ready for employment, which is one of the things that's up here. Okay? So you might choose, you know, we just chose, like Kendra said, we just chose the internship and the study abroad experiences as 2 examples of things that people talked about the last time. Okay? So what are some ways that we could support our students and improve our student learning across campus based on the data that you have now that Kendra just gave you? So it's kind of a test, huh? So you may talk now. I'm hearing a bunch of crickets right now. This is a harder question. It's a much harder question. As you're discussing, let me interrupt you for just a second. One of the things we're trying to get at is pretty soon we're going to have to narrow down a topic or a theme that the university wants to concentrate on for our QEP. So if that helps you as you're thinking about this, you know, what topic, theme, idea, whatever, do you think would help our students across campus to enhance student learning? If that helps you discuss. All right, back to it. go ahead and write some of the ideas down so that we can talk about them later. I'll give you 1 minute to finish up the conversation you're having now, and then we'll share a few of these ideas. by table necessarily, but I just want to have some groups share one or two of the things they wrote. It doesn't matter who goes first, you can just share one. Who wants to share? This table's going to share, because they are brave. Yep, yes. Did y'all have job shadowing too? So increase internships and job shadowing. Just put a big old star by it. Good job.
Obviously address the really 14,000 tutoring visits and more support, more emphasis to tutoring, not just tutoring, but supplemental instruction.
So more tutoring and supplemental instruction for support.
And also address the need for, across the board, an emphasis on, from the faculty's perspective, making sure that we have passionate and effective teaching that goes on.
Okay, so passionate and effective teaching was the third one. All right, good job. Who else needs to share? Harry.
Instead of doing job shadowing, because to me, following around somebody that is in your position is fine, but let's do it a different way. Let's put the students in an agency and solve an administrative problem. Get them involved in that decision-making process. Use that research skill and create a solution that's going to not only affect them in their, to get a grade, this is real-life stuff. And so you're practically applying these skills before they graduate, and that'll boost their confidence.
So not just a shadow, but you're actually, the student is actually involved in the daily, whatever it is that's happening.
That's going to be a big problem. Administrative concern. The second thing is, they don't have any confidence in their oral speaking. Integrate that into your class. So instead of giving 3 tests, give 2 tests and 1 oral presentation. They got to be built up. They got to know how to talk and integrate and interact with the public.
So in a way that goes with the teaching that they talked about. So add that into your instruction and to their projects that they need to do more oral language. So presentations in your class, you build that in to help support them. Okay? Somebody else want to share? Yes, right here.
We talked about the fact that students that work on campus get much higher success. So I'm going to recommend the University of Maryland grad student in undergraduate TA program, in which TAs actually got undergraduates actually serve as TAs and they pay for it. Working in class, in which they took a class, they got credit for it, they got a salary, and they actually worked in 3 areas they're studying already, helping instructors out because as we're growing as the faculty all know, we're seeing higher class sizes, but there's no pick up in the back of the faculty, so it's sort of win-win.
So creating an undergraduate paid TA program. Good. I like that. Anybody else want to share? Yes.
So we spoke a lot on internships. I don't know if Kirby that'll talk over here. So we also said we need to stress the value of internships to both students and to the businesses to allow the students to come in and watch those sorts of things. We also spoke on the academic and career counseling sides of things. Internships are good for juniors and seniors who already know what they want to do. But from an orientation side of things, when I talk to freshmen, who knows how many times they are changing their majors and trying to decide what they want to do. So offering that more so to them and helping them see that.
So job shadowing and internships, but also for lower level students, career counseling to help them decide their major and what job they want to do and that kind of thing. Okay, good. Okay, we'll do 1 or 2 more. Okay, high fives over there. We'll do one more? How about one more? One more group share something. Yes.
We said that there needs to be more interventions. Earlier learning is a great first step and gets used, but there needs to be a step after that so that if now the student knows there's an issue, how do we help them pass that and give them the support that they need? Maybe direct them to the labs that we already have and other steps. We also said we should expand the freshman seminar and include having a sophomore, junior, and senior seminar and address the needs of them at those different levels.
Okay, so I'm repeating because we're audio recording, so I want to make sure I get it right. So the first one was more interventions. So after early alert, you add sort of the next step, which is sending them to the resources they need or whatever else it takes after the early alert. And the second one, I already forgot. Sorry, my memories. Thank you. Expand the freshman seminar, so there might be one for sophomores, juniors, seniors, etc. Okay, all right. Now this was just, we are going to collect those. This was a brainstorming session to help you get started thinking about what a topic or theme for that QEP could be. Okay, we're going to use some of these ideas, plus some of the ones from the first round table, to create a survey. A very short survey that's going to have like 2 questions. So anyone can fill out this survey, seriously. It's going to have 2 or 3 questions. It'll probably ask you if you're a student, a faculty, a staff, or an employer, or a community member. It will ask you, we may put some things on there about ideas and topics, and then we'll ask you for other ideas and topics that might be good for our university-wide QEP. Okay, so that's kind of what we're getting at. After that, we're going to ask for proposals for our QEP from faculty, staff, students, and community. And actually what we're going to do abstract proposals first, so some very short, like if you have a really good idea and you can write it down in 2 or 3, maybe 1 or 2 paragraphs, we're going to have an abstract proposal process that's really short, and we're going to have the university community can vote on that. We have a QEP committee also going to look at those and decide, evaluate them. Once we've chosen several, then we will ask for full proposals. That'll be a longer process. Okay? The QEP committee will meet again, a large committee, and evaluate those. And from that, we'll have 3 proposals eventually. Those 3 proposals will present to the whole university, and the university will choose which of those final 3 will be our QEP. Okay? We have, we do have a 3rd roundtable in November. What we're going to do is we're going to send out the survey probably between now and then. We will take those results plus all the things we've talked about before. We're going to come together one more time and try to really work hard on putting all this information together. What can we do to help our students? It's going to be a lot less structured, perhaps. And there's going to be a lot of brainstorming about, I think this would be a great one, whatever. So we're going to just come together as a group and talk about those things. We do want to encourage you to think about, if you want to do a QEP proposal or you have a really good idea, that you do it in teams. And it can be teams of faculty, staff, and students, or any variation of that. It can be community members, alumni, and students together. It can be any variation of any of the stakeholders who are in this room today, or anybody else. Okay? So we want you to be thinking about those kinds of things. November 20th, in this room at 3:30. So same time, same place. We'll probably have cookies again. Yay. Unless you're sad about cookies. All right, I do have some door prizes. But I have some trivia questions. So I hope we're paying attention to Kendra. Okay? If you know the answer, stand up, because I'll be able to see that easier than raising your hand. Okay? Here's question number 1. What does QEP stand for? Who was the first one up? Wait, we don't know if she's right yet. She hasn't answered it. Quality Enhancement Plan. Thank you. You're the winner of a water bottle. Hang on. All right, rest of my committee, you got to help spot people who stand up first. Here we go. Number 2. Are there more male or female students in the WTC body? Who was first?
Lisa.
All right, they're saying it to you. Female, is she right?
Yes.
Yes, she's right. All right, spotters, you gotta help me out because I'm not looking. Number 3, we're gonna get a little bit harder now. Number 3, what is the percentage of first-generation students at WTAMU? Oh, Steve. Oh, who's closer? 46 is correct.
42 one year. But the 46 was a big number.
Number 4. What percent of freshmen bring in dual credit? Yeah, 60 what?
63.
That's real close.
Larry, she's still up. She's still up.
Who was her?
She's still up.
Ed?
62 is not correct.
Edward? 65.
I don't know. Well, we have 2 prizes, so she can have the envelopes. All right. Okay. Questions? It's a flash drive. Sorry, I love those flash drives. It is. It looks like a little ball folder. It's so cute. Sorry. Second grade teacher can't help it. All right. Questions or comments about today or the process or anything? You're like, no, because it's 4:45. All right. I want to thank you all for coming today. If you do have questions, you can go onto that community website, or you can email or call me. You can find me, no worries. Thanks for coming today. Grab a brownie on your way out. Thank you.